Hey everybody, it's Travis, the Pagan Scholar, here with an educational and scholarly video. Finally. If you're new, see, I promised I told you I do actually review academic work. Today we're going to be reviewing the first essay in Out of the Ordinary, Folklore and the Supernatural. But before we get into that, I wanted to try and lay out some terms. Folklore, in an academic sense, has kind of a different meaning other than just, how we typically understand folklore or what we take it to be. Folklore is different from religion in that folklore is a localized, or it's a belief that is specific to a particular group of people. My friend explained it as a recipe passed down from her mother, from her mother's mother, from her mother's mother's mother, is a folklore within their family, because that belief, that recipe, that system is only localized and held in authority within their family unit. So the first essay is called Beings Without Bodies, an experience-centered theory of the belief in spirits, and this is by David J. Hufford. David J. Hufford, just because we have to, have ad hominem and talk about who wrote it instead of what they actually wrote, is a professor at the University of Pennsylvania in humanitarian medicine and is an adjunct professor in their religious studies department. David J. Hufford is proposing, and just like the title says, an experience-centered theory. He explores different folkloric beliefs. The examples that he gives is old hag syndrome, where you feel like there's a presence pressing on top of you when you're asleep and you can't, even though you're awake, you can't move. And near-death experiences. These are folkloric experiences that happen in all cultures. So how do we examine these experiences, these folkloric supernatural experiences? He thinks that we should start with the actual experience itself and then understand how that experience is interpreted through culture, and then how the culture that has interpreted it either condones or dismisses it. If we accept the experience-centered theory, that means that folkloric supernatural experiences like old hag syndrome or a near-death experience can actually be understood and examined through an empirical or scientific study. If you're dismissing a folklore out of hand just because it's a supernatural event, then you are denying the fact that this experience happens in all cultures, even though these cultures have absolutely no connection. That is an incredibly brief explanation of the experience-centered theory, at least to my knowledge. Folklore is not necessarily what I studied, and so I am a little bit out of my realm of expertise, whatever the hell my realm of expertise is. But I can infer, which is also another thing that he talks about, kind of what he's getting at. And I agree with his theory that we actually have to look at the experiences first before we dismiss or accept something. It does kind of open up the doorway to examine supernatural experiences in a light that is not either blind faith or scientific dismissal, cold empiricism, I don't know. The only hang up that I have with his experience-centered theory is I think that some experiences are improbable because cultural authority does tell us and dictate what we grant as possible or impossible or likely or not likely. But he does start to talk about, he starts to apply his theory to UFO sightings. He is not saying that he believes in UFO abductions, he's just saying that his theory can be applied to that. I am not going to get into a debate about aliens, I'm just not. I'm not even going to give my opinion on the matter. However, I understand the reason why his theory is disliked is because it does give credence to these experiences that our culture holds as preposterous or incredulous. But, you have to take the good and the bad. It's kind of an all or nothing deal. So it's kind of a bitter medicine or a harsh truth, or it's a difficult paradigm to live up to, I guess. There are a few other things that I wanted to talk about, but I don't feel like I have the know-how or the authority, yeah, that's the word of this video, to speak on them properly. However, he does some interesting things with the term belief. Where are my notes? So his proposal is that belief is a certainty that something is true. And belief is kind of a wishy-washy word because it gets tossed around with spiritual and with faith. However, linguistically, I guess, he is just saying that belief is a certainty that something is true. And then he says knowledge is a kind of belief. This is an interesting epistemological claim because in epistemology we ask, how do we know what we know? To lump knowledge into belief is just kind of a really itchy linguistic sweater. But he continues that knowledge is it is a kind of belief, and all of our beliefs are about the world. We don't have beliefs that are suspended without any relation to the world. Regardless of the belief or how you received that belief, belief is always going to be about the world. If we have an eclipse, you can draw from science or you can draw from folklore, but you're going to have a belief about it. Oh, see, I might even just edit this out because this is a really delicate linguistic question. The idea of knowledge as belief, belief as a statement about the world. How do we know what we know? It's really difficult to sum up in a 10-minute video. But to bring back to the experience-centered theory, if we have knowledge about the world, if we have a belief about the world, where do those beliefs come from? They come from experiences. And those experiences can be firsthand, they can be folkloric, or they can come from cultural authority or social authority, or from a medical handbook. The example that he uses a lot is poison ivy. Somebody can have a belief about poison ivy by having learned about it in a scout handbook, or they can have a belief about poison ivy by falling into a patch of it. The two beliefs are the same, they just arrived from a different place, but that does not change the fact that the belief is still that poison ivy is itchy. It just depends on how we have perceived and understood it and received that belief. Most of our beliefs come through culture, and culture dictates how we interpret our experiences, and thus he has the experience-centered theory of belief, of folklore, of interpretation, in that to understand the world around us, in order to take the supernatural seriously, we have to start with the experience and not the cultural authority of whether we accept or dismiss that within our personal or cultural paradigm. That was a lot of words. Almost lost it. Okay, anyways, this is actually available online. You can, tell you what, you can click the book, or you can click the link in the description in case you're on your phone, but that would really suck to read it all on your phone. But this is online, and I would actually appreciate it if somebody else could read this and kind of show me up and be like, you got this completely wrong. One more thing before I go, I am super excited. I have received another book in the mail. Her Hidden Children. Hooray! Chase S. Clifton. I'm pretty sure it's Chas. There's no E on the end of his name. I am super excited about this. I read the preface, whatever it is, and it's fantastic. It perfectly sums up the challenge of studying contemporary paganism in an academic way. I'm not going to read it to you, it's just take my word for it. If you get this book, don't skip the first part. But yes, Her Hidden Children, The Rise of Wicca and Paganism in America. I feel like this is going to be a companion to The Triumph of the Moon, because The Triumph of the Moon was about the rise of contemporary paganism in Europe, and this is America. So, alright guys, I am going to try and get some more stuff done on my day off. I hope you enjoyed this video. A like is appreciated, a subscription even more so. Please leave comments in the comment section below. I would love to hear back from you to see if I made any sense in this very convoluted video. And as always, merry meet, merry part, and merry meet again.